All right, so now that we are finished our cards, I'm going to show you how to make a custom envelope for them. And actually I'm going to show you two different ways to make an envelope. So my favorite way is using an envelope punch board. It's super simple and pretty much foolproof, but I'm also going to show you how to do one if you just have a slide rule trimmer, because not everyone has a punch board. So the cards that we made are 5 by 5 with this little tab here. It comes out to about 5.5 inches. So I'm going to make a 5.5 inch square envelope. It's going to accommodate that little tab there. It's also going to accommodate the dimension from stacking those 1/4 inch strips. So the first one I'm going to show you is the envelope punch board version. If you look on here, there's a chart there, so it tells you this card size and tells you to cut your paper to 9 by 9 inches. So when you're using an envelope punch board, it has all the information right on that punch board that you're going to need. And then the only other thing you need is a trimmer and adhesive. All right, so now we've got that cut down to 9 by 9. Put the trimmer to the side for a moment. So the other thing it tells you right on here is your first score line is going to be at 4.5 inches. And it's got a measuring thing right here. And because we're making a square envelope, all of them are going to be at 4.5 inches. So put this to the 4.5 inch mark, punch the corner, and then use the scoring tool in the channel. When your card stock is shorter than this, it's really easy to see where the channel is and just to move in and then turn a 1/4 turn. This lines up right with that little whatever this thing is, that little plastic thing there. And because I'm making a square, I also make sure that it's at the 4.5 inch mark. Sometimes it's really easy to get that just slid over a little bit. Punch, score, punch, score. And then before we put our tool away, this side will round those tips for you. There we go. And now all of these flaps just get folded right in. And then obviously we're going to want to put adhesive on those as well. So I'm going to grab my adhesive. I'm just going to put them on the inside of that flap there. Because I've already folded it over, I know that that gets covered. Let's close this. And then put it on here. Close that. And I like to use that score tool just to get really good folds in there. There we go. And now we can take our card and insert it in the envelope. It's going to be a little bit wider, but that's totally fine. It's going to accommodate that width. And there we have our first envelope. So now let's put the envelope punch board aside. And I'll show you how to create one with just a slide rule trimmer. So I'm also going to create a 5.5 by 5.5 inch envelope with this. Just grabbing a little pencil. So I want the finished size to be 5.5 by 5.5. So the width of the paper that I'm going to create here, I'm going to add 1 inch to that because I want to have a 1/2 inch flap. So the width is going to be 6.5 inches. And then we need to have, this is not the right size, but it's just going to show you what I'm talking about. So we need to have a piece of paper this way that is twice this plus 1 inch. So 5.5 plus 5.5 is 11, plus 1 inch is 12. So that is going to give us enough cardstock to wrap around the card, both front and back, plus a flap in order to glue down. Now, I typically will do that 1 inch overlap, but you could do less than that if you wanted, or if you didn't have quite enough cardstock. There is a limit to what size you can create your envelopes when you do it this way. but still, so it needs to be 12 inches by 6.5 inches. So measuring that on the trimmer. That excess can go to the side. I'm gonna need this in a moment. So I'm going to score, oops, lost my bone folder there. I'm going to score a 1/2 inch from the sides on both of the long sides. And I could do it on this side too. It's just easier because I'm right-handed, easier to do it on the left side. Move that shifted a little bit. There we go. And then we need to score this way. So our paper here is 12 inches. I don't want to score at 5.5 because I don't want this flap to go all the way to the top with the next fold. So I'm going to score this around 4 inches and then add 5.5 to that, so that's 9 inches. So this is the size of the envelope, which is 5.5 by 5.5, and then I've got my overlaps there. Now back to the slide rule trimmer. These 4 corners are going to get cut right out. So I'm lining up those with the channel. I stop where that score line is, lift that up, and then put it back down where the next score line is. Do that on that side, and then do that on the other long side as well. So once again, trimming down to where that score line is, lifting it up, and then starting again where the next score line is. And then you could use the slide rule trimmer to cut this part, but I find it's just as easy to just use the scissors. You've already got that score line to show you exactly where to cut. So it's just a matter of snipping those pieces out. Now at this point, I do like to round the corners, all of the square corners there. I just think it looks a little bit prettier. And not everyone, but a lot of people have a corner rounder. So if you have one, it's easy enough just to round those corners. Give it a little bit more of a finished look. And obviously this is the same corner rounder that I was using for the card. And if you wanted to round those corners but didn't have a corner rounder, you could just use your scissors to do that. By using a punch, it's just going to make sure that all of those rounded edges are exactly the same. All right, so the inside here, those 2 sides can get folded in, and then that part gets folded up. Now, rather than putting adhesive on this flap, you could put a little pencil mark where that ended. It's just easier to do it on this right here because I know where that ends without even needing to measure it. And then same with this side as well. Take those backings off. And there we go. We can put our card in there. And then we can fold that top over there. Give it a nice score. And there we go. We have our envelope for our card here. So 2 different ways to make an envelope. Neither one is right or wrong. This one's definitely a little bit quicker and easier, but you can absolutely create your own envelope with just a trimmer and a scoreboard.